What's up YouTube? I'm here to do my prediction video for UFC 202. Let's start at the bottom. First fight is Alberto Uda versus Marvin Vettor. And Albert Uda looked decent in his UFC debut. It was weird. He looked amazing in all honesty. It's just he got hit with some shots towards the end, and I mean he looked really good. His striking was on point, his grappling was on point, and then he got caught. And it just makes me wonder about his chin. You know, his skills look like they're there, but his durability didn't. Marvin Vettor looks like, you know, he's got the same type of skills, but with durability. I think he's been in some wars. And I felt like that was the first tough fight Uda ever had, and we saw that he kind of crumbled when he got hit hard. So I'm going to pick Marvin. I just think I've seen some of the videos on YouTube, and he looks like he can take a shot a little bit better. So I'm going to say Marvin wins by decision. Next is Colby Covington versus Max Griffin. And Max Griffin looks like a decent up-and-comer, but that's about it. I think Colby Covington is just one of those guys. His wrestling's just too good for these lower-level people, you know what I mean? He's only going to have a hard time when he's fighting like top 20, 25 guys. These type of fights, they're just, you know, they're going to be one-sided wrestling matches when you see just fights like these in general with such great wrestlers going against no names. So I'll pick Colby Covington. I say he wins by submission or decision, just dominantly though. Next is Neil Magny versus Lorenz Larkin, and I think if Lorenz can keep the standing, he'll probably win, but I just don't think he will. I think Neil will be able to keep him in the clinch and just keep it in this type of grappling situation where whether it's on the ground or up against the fence, I think it's going to be a really taxing fight. And I think Lorenz doesn't have great cardio at 70. I think the weight cut kind of saps his energy a little bit. He looks good early, but if you can really push him hard, then I think he starts to fade, and I think that's what happens. I think the first round will be close. The second round, we'll start to see Neil pick it up a little bit, and then Neil might get a late third finish, or he'll win like a majority decision. Either way, I just think his conditioning and his wrestling is going to be too much, and his overall size. He looks, you know, longer and bigger. Next is Randa Marcos versus Courtney Casey, and this is basically striker versus grappler, but I'm going to pick Randa. I think Randa her grappling is going to be just a little bit better than Courtney Casey's striking, and I think on the ground she's got a pretty big advantage. I think striking there, you know, Courtney's definitely got an advantage, but I think Randa can strike with her if she needs to. But like I said, I think there's a big grappling advantage for Randa, so I think she wins by either like majority or split decision. I think the first couple rounds will be close. Next is Artem Lobov versus Chris Avili, and Chris isn't very good. I mean, I don't know why Artem's still in the UFC. His record was like 10-10 when he won the Ultimate Fighter, and he's 0-2 in the UFC, so he's like 10-12, and he didn't look amazing in either of those fights. I mean, the first fight you can say, you know, he was fighting a grappler, and it was just a bad matchup, but then he fought a boxer, and he just couldn't keep up with his... I mean, it's pretty clear to me that Artem can't beat guys that have good foot movement. Like, if you saw his last fight, he's clearly just a brawler, and if guys have good foot movement, they don't even be great strikers. So I don't think Alex White is the greatest striker ever. I just think he has good technique overall. And that's all he did was just good foot movement for 3 rounds. And I think that Artem's probably going to win this fight because he's fighting a kind of scrub guy that they're just kind of throwing to him. But as soon as he fights anybody that can grapple or has decent striking, that's probably why his record was 10-10. And he was just able to beat those guys in the Ultimate Fighter because they didn't have great foot movement. But either way, Artem's probably going to win by knockout. I just don't think he's going to be in the UFC much longer after this fight. So, yeah, Artem first round knockout. Next is Raquel Pennington versus Elizabeth Phillips. And this is another kind of striker versus brawler grappler in Raquel Pennington. I'm going to pick Pennington. I just think that she's going to turn this into a gritty, dirty fight. And I think she'll probably get a decision. I don't know. This fight just doesn't interest me that much. I just think that both of them are kind of in that weird spot where they're decent, but they're not great, and they're kind of fighting each other to get to that like top 10-ish spot. And then they'll probably fight somebody good, and I don't think they'll beat one of the better people in their next fights. Either way, I think Raquel Pennington, just her kind of grindy, gritty style, will get her to the decision win. Next, Cody Garbrandt versus Takeya Mizugaki. I know this sounds weird, but I'm going to pick Mizugaki. I think that these are the types of fights that guys like Cody Garbrandt, lose. You know, it's a weird trend where guys will be on this weird win streak, and then they'll fight somebody that you don't think they're going to lose to, and then they do. And it's not just that, but I actually think Cody Garbrandt has a lot of holes in a striking game. I think we saw it when he fought that Mexican guy. I think that if guys can kind of weather the first round and make him fight at like a pace, and I think Mizugaki, you know, his technical striking is good at hitting people where they're weak. And I think as long as Mizugaki doesn't get caught in the first round with like a big punch, I think Cody, he falls into this really like I don't know what the best way to put it is, but he falls in this really slow rhythm where he won't do a lot. Like if you look at that Marcus Branish fight, the only reason Branish got knocked out was because he had no choice. He was down in points and he was trying to force a knockout, and then he got caught with a counter. But if he didn't, he probably would have just lost a decision. And it's because Cody just falls into this rhythm. And if you can pick out the holes, and I think he keeps his hands kind of low when he strikes. I think Mizugaki can score points on him and probably edge out a decision. So I'm going to pick Mizugaki. I say he wins 29-28. Next is Tim Means versus Sabah Homasi. And Sabah isn't very good. His record's 11-5. He beat somebody decent his last fight. Tim Means is going to wreck this dude. I mean, Sabah is a striker and that's it. He's been knocked out. He's been submitted. Tim Means is way better than this dude. I mean, I don't know if this was a short-nosed fight or whatnot, but I mean, like I said, Tim Means is just way better than this dude. He's going to knock him out in the first round or submit him. He's just going to take him down and fucking obliterate him. The same thing, next fight is Hungyeon Lim versus Mike Perry. And Mike Perry looks like a decent prospect, but he's taking this fight on like a week or 3 weeks notice. And I just think Lim is too good to be losing to a guy who's, he looks smaller than him. And I just feel like Lim is too good to just lose to some short notice guy. I think his striking is way too good for this guy, and he'll probably win by first round knockout. It's just unfortunate that injuries happen, but they do. Next is Rick Story versus Donald Cerrone, and this is really what we're going to see how Cerrone is going to do at this weight class, because Rick Story is really one of the top. He's always been, in my opinion, the top 10 welterweight. I mean, even when he was alternating wins and losses, it wasn't like he was losing badly in any of those losses. They were all really close losses. And then most of his wins, I felt, were pretty one-sided wins. So I don't know what he's ranked right now. I think he's got to be at least 10th. I mean, I don't know what he's got, like a 3 or 4 fight win streak, or he's gone 4-1 in his last 5. But Rick Story's a great wrestler, and he really knows how to grind on guys. I think that his biggest weakness is his lack of finishing ability. I think even though he's a good wrestler and he's good at throwing high volume and stuff like that, I think he just doesn't have a lot of finishes. And I think Cerrone has the better conditioning. I think Rick Story kind of fades. He has great wrestling. He's able to keep on hitting takedowns even when he's tired. But I think Cerrone's got the way he attacks people. If you start to get tired on him, he'll submit you, or he'll pour the pressure on you. And I think the first 2 rounds are going to be pretty back and forth, but I think come the third, Cerrone's going to pick it up and probably win by submission with like a triangle or a rear naked choke. I see this fight ending on the ground because, like I said, I think Story's good at getting takedowns even when he's tired, and I think that's what's going to happen. He's going to get a takedown, but Cerrone's going to eventually finish him with a submission. Next is Anthony Rumble Johnson versus Glover Teixeira, and this is kind of just, in my opinion, like who catches who first. I think Johnson's probably got more knockout power, but I think overall, technically, they're probably about even when it comes to striking. I think Johnson's the better wrestler, but I think Glover's the better grappler overall. And it's just one of those things where it's like, who do you think is going to get who first? I agree with the rankings. I think these guys are number 1 and number 2 at this point. I think the only other guy that kind of could fight DC and win is Alex, but I don't know when he's fighting again. I think he's fighting a couple months from now. But like I said, it's basically Rumble's power versus Glover's kind of experience and technique. I think, like I said, I think his overall game is just a little bit more well-rounded. I also think Glover's a better conditioned fighter because Rumble just, he gasses in every single fight. I don't think I've ever seen a fight where it goes to the 3rd round. He doesn't look more tired than the other guy. I think Glover's never been knocked out, and I think that he's great at making fights. Even fights that he's lost, he's looked like he's put up a fight. And I think if he can get this to the 3rd round, I think he'll win by submission with like a rear naked choke. I think he's got underrated wrestling, and I do think once Anthony gets tired, he'll be able to take him down. So I'm gonna pick Glover to win by 3rd round rear naked choke. Last is Nate Diaz versus Conor McGregor. And to me, this fight is simple. If this fight was at 55, I think Conor could win, but it's at 70 again. And Conor's too fucking small to fight at 70. And I think Nate doesn't have to cut as much weight. His durability is way better. And I think his conditioning is way better at 70. And Conor's conditioning is worse. That's why he gassed in the first fight, because he has to probably put on unnecessary weight to make that weight. So I think the same thing is going to happen. Conor's going to look good early. He's going to get tired. And then Nate's going to finish him. It sucks to say, but it's simple. If this fight was at 55, it could go either way. At 70, Nate wins all day. So I'm going to pick Nate. I say he wins by 2nd round rear naked choke. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Please like and subscribe.